Last year I started a Google Pixel collection and the phone that I got first was this one right here, the Google Pixel XL. The original Google Pixel, the Google Pixel 1, the first edition Pixel, however you want to describe it. This phone holds a special place in my heart and it's special to a lot of people, but I think I let that sway me a bit too much with last year's video, so we're going to correct that today. There are some very good reasons to buy this phone, but should you buy this phone? We're going to answer that today, but first here's everything you should know about the Google Pixel XL. Over the years, Google have partnered with other brands to create Google editions of other companies' phones, but in 2016, that all changed. Enter the Google Pixel and Google Pixel XL. The Nexus branding of old, which forged a loyal fan base, was dropped, and Google finally embraced the responsibility of having full control over the phone's hardware and software. Well, kind of. HTC did most of the heavy lifting when it came to the design. But the only logo on this phone was Google's. Talking of the design, let's take a closer look. This is a metal and glass premium build, making a move away from the plastics lots of companies were using at the time. With metal at the bottom and a glossy finish at the top, it took a bit of time for the design to grow on people. But as we all know, this design went on to define what Pixels looked like for years to come. It had a premium build quality, but maybe not the most cutting edge design. From the front at least. Leading the pack at the time was definitely Samsung with its Edge display. I've never been a fan of curved screens on a phone. I'm glad that fad's slowly fading away in favour of a flat display. Nevertheless, it made the front of this phone look old, antiquated and just out of date. A weird design touch which I haven't seen since is this wedge shape. Thick at the top, down to a thin bottom. Most people won't even notice that, but it does leave me asking the question, why did they choose to do that? Now time for two fan favourites. Number one, this phone has a headphone jack. And number two, a textured power button. A textured power button or just a power button with an accent colour is something that I love to see on a phone. It's an extra bit of playfulness that you don't really get anywhere else. At the bottom, there's a USB-C port and some bottom facing speakers. These weren't great because you could easily cover them if you were holding the phone sideways trying to watch a video. There are two main reasons you consider buying this phone, the stock Android experience and the cameras. We'll talk about both of those things in a second, but first here are the specs. Starting with the screen. It's a 5.5-inch AMOLED display on this XL model. That's about a 70% screen to body ratio. You don't get too many companies mentioning that stat anymore. It's Corning Gorilla Glass 4, which is pretty strong, but evidently not strong enough for me. It has a Snapdragon 821 chip inside, and you could expect a 32GB model or a 128GB model, both with 4GB of RAM. And it is worth mentioning if you're thinking of getting one of these, there's no expandable storage, but there is a 3450 mAh battery. One thing I do miss about phones today is a fingerprint scanner on the back. It's just convenient and fast, your finger just naturally falls there when you're pulling your phone out your pocket. So even if it wasn't super fast, it felt fast because by the time your phone was up to your face, it was already unlocked. Let's talk about the important stuff. The cameras. This is a 12 megapixel camera, but rather than just telling you about the camera, I made a list of things I see a lot of people posting on Instagram. Colourful flowers, old buildings, coffee, dogs. I'll take a picture of all these things so you can make a judgment call for yourself if this is good enough for what you need. I know I said I was going to take a picture of a coffee, but I see your coffee and I raise you a coffee and a cake. Overall, I think these cameras are fine for general social media posts. I think I could do a whole YouTube video on this thing. Let me know if you want to see that video. Everyone say hi Ace down in the comments, he loves the attention. Now the camera stuff's out the way, time for the thing that really sets the Google Pixels apart from the competition. The software. It's Android as Google intended it, with a sprinkle of Google magic on top. It's a clean and simple OS that got updates much quicker than competition at the time. It was designed to run well and run for a long time, and it's done great. It's topped out with Android 10 and it's handling that really well. I was worried that some apps wouldn't work on Android 10, but I haven't hit any problems yet. And after checking a few popular apps on the App Store, it looks like they're all compatible with Android 9 or higher, which is a bonus. But that's all sounded a bit too positive, so I think it's about time I brought us back down to earth. I just want to clarify one thing. You shouldn't buy this phone now. Let me tell you why. This phone just isn't really worth the money you would be paying for it now. There are better phones for the money if you're looking for a phone to use today. This is basically a collector's item. The Pixel line of phones has garnered a strong fan base, and rightly so. It's just pushed up the prices of older phones like this one and the Pixel 2 XL because people just want that kick of nostalgia. I'm a huge Google Pixel fan, and that's why I've splurged on this phone. That's the only reason you should buy this Google Pixel phone this year. If you love Google Pixels, then this is the phone for you. And so is this video on screen now. I'll see you over there.